Welcome to 5 Strike Weekly. After 2 more wins in the bounce, Atlanta United goes into the international break, sitting 3rd in the Eastern Conference. We look back at both of those games, as well as preview that little clash with the Charleston Battery in the US Open Cup. We discuss all that and more, coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Star Fam. I'm AJ, this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become a member of Notification Squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button, or hop over from Facebook and subscribe.
You can now also find all our content on the Geneco USA platform anywhere in the world on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, iOS, Google Play, and many other streaming platforms.
It's a double match review show, so let's get right into it. And that Wednesday match against Minnesota United, where we dispatched the Loons 3-0. It was a lot tighter in the beginning, and then definitely in stoppage time, we put the game away. But with some really embarrassing gaffes by the defense of Minnesota United. But in terms of this match, I mean, some crazy things happened. You have the Guzan triple save. You have LGP, just an absolute warrior, bleeding from his head onto the pitch. I mean, he looks like a wrestler that has like cut his forehead or something.
It was wild. Whenever you see like a film and you see like the walking wounded walking back in like a war flick and they have like the thing over there. Yeah,
exactly.
That is exactly
Rambo.
What
he is Rambo.
Full on. Did not care. He was an absolute unit that game, but there was so much madness in that match itself. Obviously, you have the Escobar goal to open things up, and at that point, I felt like, okay, I think we could go on and make something of this match, because they were leaving loads of space on that right-hand side all match. So when he finally got the ball, it was like, thank you, we found him. And he's really, everyone who watches the channel knows how much I was ranting against him about this time last season, but he has developed into one of the best right backs in the league and a key player for Atlanta United. But
He's so clinical in the box when he sees an opportunity.
When he gets on the right-hand side at this point and he gets the ball there, you almost know he's going to score. The MLS Cup, Red Bulls, this match, it's just...
people pontificated if it was, if playoff form Escobar is now just regular Escobar.
I'm fine with that.
I think it is.
I'm fine with that. Like, he's doing so... He's able to do this, though, because he has 2 center backs behind him that can cover. Miles Robinson's athleticism allows Escobar to embody the role that he kind of always was, being a crazy person, running around, making things happen.
Yeah.
But because of Miles Robinson, who can just clean up anything behind him, he has much more free to be able to do those things.
Right.
But, I think the key point in this match, though, had to be that Guzan triple save.
Yeah.
Because I learned after this match, funny enough, I never knew. There's not goal line technology in MLS.
Yeah.
They just use VAR to do it, which I'm like, why? Just put it there so you don't have to worry about it. It didn't go in, but I still... having seen it numerous times, I have no idea how it did not go in.
Yeah, there might have been an LGP hand in there as well in play, but
it hit their guy's hand as well. For what it's
exactly.
worth.
So there's a lot of things that happen in that, and that's just sometimes, and especially when you don't have that FIFA technology, that's what happens. And but still, it doesn't take away the awesomeness of that triple save and how much of a game changer that really was.
That was hearts and throat right there.
Yeah, exactly, because if it had gone in, it would have been 1-1. And without that, now we put it away in stoppage time. Joseph, there's 2 gifts here.
The second goal was, I think, a really good break. Joseph got a fortuitous bounce, but he really took those guys to task and then slotted it when the ball had a really weird bounce at the last second. He just slotted it in. But that third goal was... Ikapara, what you doing, mate? What you doing?
Yeah, exactly. If you're a Vito Minone, like, you say something really loudly. Something, because Ikapara not even looking, and Joseph Martinez is the funniest. Maybe this week was gold.
Joseph Martinez is the quote machine that keeps on giving.
But he basically said, I'm going this off of memory because it's been a while, but he said it's like getting a glass of rum for free, and I didn't even order it.
A glass of rum that you didn't order and it just shows up.
Yeah.
It's like you say thank you and you go about your day.
Exactly,
It's just like, oh, thanks, I appreciate this wonderful gift you've given me. And that goal, and then in the Chicago game, the second goal he scored 2 times where he had space, but he just outruns pretty much everyone and then calmly slots it home, and he doesn't care that there's people charging down around him or whatever. He just puts it away because that's what the king does.
Right, and these are reminiscent goals of last season as well, because when he's one-on-one with a keeper, I mean, earlier on this season, yes, it was not the results that we usually see from Joseph Martinez, but the one-on-one capability that we know is in his locker, he showed that all this week, and especially, now we know that he had a 4-goal week. That's just, not many guys can do that. And
back-to-back braces is always nice.
Exactly, right. And Joseph Martinez, he's one of the best dribblers one-on-one, I feel like, in this league. And then he has that underrated speed. Like, he, as a striker, doesn't get to use that a lot of times. But
because teams sit so deep, you never see him running in open space.
Right, but he's also one of the fastest guys. I mean, if you're going to go by, FIFA and whatnot, FIFA the game, they've rated his speed or his pace better than Miguel Almiron last year. Yeah,
I don't know if I believe that.
I know, exactly, right? Because in an open pitch, open field,
I'd say Miggy and Tito,
exactly,
and
right?
then Joseph.
It was very strange to see that in the game, but it was. And
remember,
it was
guys, Miggy's faster with the ball than without the ball.
Oh god, but anyway, so, and I think we've said that too, but it is one of those things. I mean, he does look so silky smooth with the ball, Miguel Almiron. But anyway,
and Tito's one of those guys as well that when he gets into open space, he's just like,
yeah. But that's more like he doesn't have the ball and he's just already speeding by everybody.
Well, the goal I'm thinking of last season in who was it against, where he did a celebration where he ran past everyone,
exactly,
a 70-yard run, and he had the ball the whole time. And
I think it was against Columbus.
Was against Columbus, and he's just kept going, and it's just like, okay, he just ran by everyone.
It's true, exactly, and that's we're getting off topic, but anyway, so in with this Minnesota United match, it's another clean sheet, fantastic. What you really see is that I think Frank de Boer is coming into his own in the team-wise, knowing his personnel. And the substitutions were, I think, appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, he controlled and managed the match so well from his point of view in introducing the substitutions when he did to effectively kill that match off and put players on the pitch who would have prevented Minnesota from being able to take advantage of any deficiencies that Atlanta would have had defensively.
Right.
Putting their Lorimer's on, putting a Breck Shea on, putting the height on the pitch to basically take away long balls and balls in the air, putting that experience on in Jeff Lawrence to know that he's going to shield and clean up everything that happens in front of your defense. So I thought he managed the game very, very well, and Atlanta United, as we discussed, got those 2 fortuitous goals at the end of the match to make it a bit more flattering of a scoreline than maybe it deserved to be.
Right.
But Minnesota was a good team. They came into the match 4th place in the Western Conference. They've been playing well so far this season. They have Iko Para, who made the mistake, but he's one of the better defenders in MLS. And on the whole, they defended relatively well. They have one of my least favorite coaches in the league, in Adrian Heath. I think he's an absolute wanker. But that was a good result. And off the back of 2 defeats, they needed to get back on track, which kind of goes back to that key moment, because if that goal goes in for Minnesota and you have a draw there after 2 defeats in a row, that's a lot of pressure that's getting put back onto this team saying, why can't you perform? Why are you dropping points at home to teams you should be beating?
Yeah, or even conceding the lead. That would have been something that I don't think the fan base would have liked to see. Some more positives from this match. I think Dion Pereira created 5 dribbles in this match. The end product quite wasn't there, but he was definitely pumping those balls in, and it's just you want to see that end product finally come from him. And I think it is coming, but I think also you have this long break. Maybe it kind of gets people out of form. Who knows? Hopefully
maybe he can work on his final. I mean, the thing that I like about Dion Pereira is that he will continue, as he continues to grow in confidence, he'll continue taking players on. And he's one of the few players that can take people off the dribble and be direct. And you don't necessarily have that because PT does take players on, but not necessarily in the direct way that Dion Pereira will, where on the wing, he'll just take you to the byline and then cross it from there. You don't have a lot of players who do that. I love players that can do that. I love that confidence. If you have the ability to do that, it can really unhinge defenses that sit deep, because if you can beat someone one-on-one, then now someone else has to come over and cover, and that creates space for your team. So I think Dion Pereira has done a fantastic job stepping in and stepping up with the absences of Barco and Tito Villalba, and I think that you're seeing the reasons why Atlanta United signed him in the first place, and hopefully he can continue to develop. And that's another attacking threat that Atlanta United has.
Right, it's competition for places, and that's always great to see within a team. Now, getting to sort of the negatives, I mean, for the large part of the match still, they kind of still struggled to break down a Minnesota team that was sitting very deep. And that's, why it was so close, why, it was squeaky bum time for a long time until, we broke through finally.
That second goal, for me, I don't know if it was for you as well, but for me, it felt like it wasn't as much a celebration of the goal as much as it was a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah.
And that third goal was kind of that, it almost felt that third goal was like a changing point. It's like, finally, we've put a team to the sword, we've put the team away 3-0, beaten someone, and it felt good.
Right.
Like, it felt good. Not that maybe it was the best performance, but you felt good walking out of that stadium for one of the first times this season, really, where it was a team that was good, and you beat them, and everyone goes, okay, that's better, thank God.
This was reminiscent, I think, of more of the earlier results of last year and the performances as well, where we beat teams that are clearly good. We beat like the likes of like a DC United and LAFC with large score lines, and it definitely was a case of like, we maybe flattered to deceive, but we were able to put in the goals, and so it looks a lot better than it does. And so this was, I think, one of the first ones this year where I think that was the case. Sporting KC also maybe one of those as well. But let's get into the post-match quotes in this and some of the interesting things that were said. I think, it's the interesting change in this match was the 4-3-3 formation, kind of maybe alleviating a little bit of the fatigue that the team has, and also bringing in Julian Gressel a little bit more towards the central part of the pitch, so that he didn't have to use his legs as much, bombing up and down and on the right. And so that, I think, actually helps solidify not only the midfield, but also free up PT Martinez on the right. And so Frank de Boer, his quote there on making the changes to the midfield: I think both Julian Gressel in the middle, PT Martinez on the right, did a great job playing different positions. I know PT is a player that can play like a number 10, but from the right coming in on his left foot, he can make smart passes or shoot on goal. He can be very dangerous doing that as well.
That's something that we've kind of talked about earlier this season, where we talked about having those inverted wingers, putting, say, a Tito on the left and a PT on the right, to where they can cut in, because they're both strong shooters from distance, to be able to cut in onto their strong foot and create that space and then be able to get a shot away. And you've seen PT is much more effective coming in off that right-hand side onto his left foot, in my opinion, than he's been anywhere else on the pitch so far for Atlanta United this year. And with Gressel, it was a weird, very Dutch thing to do, where the formation was almost fluid between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1, where Gressel would kind of pop into that number 10 role to take up that space or to press someone and try to play make in there when he could. Is that his best position? No. And I think that, unfortunately, you might see him be the player to make way when a Barco comes back, because he's been playing really well for Argentina, and in terms of technical ability, Barco is one of the best on the team and possibly in the league. So that was a very interesting change, but it worked out. And I think that now it's trying to find what position suits PT's strengths the best. Not necessarily what has he played in the best in the past, but what is he the best at, and where can we get the best out of him? And I think, in my opinion, it's going to be on the right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and what we're able to see later on with the benefit of hindsight, the Chicago Fire match, there is that playmaking ability from the right to be able to quickly create a chance instead of having to switch your foot and maybe have to cross from an angle that might be a little bit more awkward. So,
and he had the one shot as well that I think was a bit dramatically saved by the keeper against Chicago. But again, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this match, I mean, just a scoreline that maybe flattered us a little bit, but I think it was a good, a good way for us to bounce back, especially from those two losses, especially against RSL, where we were killed from distance, and this match we kind of were able to eschew that a little bit. I think we learned some lessons there, and we're able to close out a little sooner than we did against Real Salt Lake. But let's get into the Chicago Fire match that happened on Saturday. I mean, essentially, came in with, some expectation of maybe like, okay, can we carry this through to Saturday? Because it is the last of our matches, we want to be able to have a good result before the long international break. And, I think we were able to really overall do a great job of it. Of course, Joseph Martinez with the brace and 2 goals that kind of come from a counterattack. Even though it's, kind of the first ones worked really well through the team. But I think you see some goals from yesteryear again in this match.
Absolutely, and I think that it was something that going into the match, you knew that Chicago was going to ship goals. It's something they've been doing. They had a 3-3 result prior against DC United, so you knew they were dangerous going forward as well. But from the get-go, and I watched this match with Jay Riddle, and I told him immediately, it was like, this team has no defensive organization. And quite often, especially in the first half, they changed in the second half, but in the first half, they were leaving basically one center back when they were attacking, and that was just leaving loads and loads of space for Joseph Martinez. And for the first goal, you have Escobar doing what he does best, getting the ball and charging and running down that right-hand side. And then you had an incredible interchange between him and PT Martinez, who then plays in Joseph for the first goal. And it happened quickly. And I think that's something that Atlanta United has to take advantage of when teams allow them that. And that's something that they hadn't been doing earlier in the season. They would control the play and try to play out and play that possession. But it's in this team's DNA to attack and attack quickly. And the second goal came from just a long ball over the top where Joseph, for someone his size, he can jump an incredibly high amount in the air, and he's incredibly strong. And he showed his strength on this goal where he shielded the defender off and then used his speed to run past everyone and then coolly slot home. But it was something that I was surprised that Atlanta United didn't take advantage of earlier, because I'm not criticizing them for winning, but there could have easily been 4 or 5 goals against Chicago in this game. Chicago in the first half especially were there for the taking. They were dismal defensively. And if anyone thinks that a Bastian Schweinsteiger or anyone else is going to be able to keep pace with Joseph Martinez, not to mention their keeper was sometimes playing 10 yards from the halfway line. It was kind of ridiculous, but Atlanta United got their goals. I wish they could have scored more, but it was a solid result to add on top of that victory against Minnesota to give you 2 wins on the bounce. And at the end of the match, they were sitting in first place in the East.
Right. We took advantage of the space that they almost tend to, like Chicago Fire as a team, kind of just like to do that against us. It's baffling, and we'll take that every single time, because if you look at maybe in 2017, very similar circumstances where they leave a ton of space in behind.
Defending, what's that? Against a team like Atlanta United, who's good at attacking.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with players that love to run in behind and thrive on those type of those balls. And okay, great. So it was very beautiful in that respect.
That first goal, though, was that was one of the best goals that Atlanta United has ever scored. I mean, it's up there in terms of a team goal. The interchange between Escobar and PT, and then
the final ball
was incredible. I mean, that was an incredible team goal, and that's something that I want to see more, because it had a highlight of everything. It had the highlight of Atlanta United, of Tata Martino, but it also had the interchange and the quick play that you're supposed to see at the highest level within a passing type system that you see with the Boer. Being able to have those quick interchanges and players being able to take a different position, like Escobar going down as a right winger, basically. That was perfect. And if you can figure out how to make that happen, obviously it's difficult to play that all the time. But that's what I think fans want to see from Atlanta United. And if that's something that they can build on and keep doing and then take that into the second half of the season, then they're really going to make a good shot for themselves to win the East. I don't think they'll push LAFC, but they'll be doing the damnedest to get as many points on the board as they can.
Right. So yeah, really, I think it's a point of if we can get more points than LAFC somehow, and we'll just kind of eschew the goal difference, because I think that's where we've kind of gone.
Yeah, their goal difference is ridiculous.
Yeah, and so they're going to continue to score more unless something happens to Carlos Vela.
I think personally, like, as much as I'd love to see us catch them, I don't think anyone catches LAFC this year.
Yeah,
I mean, I said it on Twitter the other day. I think they could damn well get 80 points this season. I mean, they've played 16 matches, they have 37. Play 34 league games. If they win their next one, they're on pace for 80. I mean,
they're on a ridiculous pace, and so is Vela. You might be on a pace to beat Joseph Martinez.
Hopefully not. I don't care if they set the points record, just don't break that.
I don't know, man. I think well, since the record's not ours, so then
I want Joseph holding that record. Yeah. I want Joseph holding that record. I don't want LAFC taking that from Joseph. Yeah. No.
True. But all right. But anyway, in this match though, there were a few little negatives. Franco Escobar, yellow card accumulation. That pretty much means he will miss that next match coming back. and it's bad.
He should have seen red.
Probably,
if I'm being honest, you cannot sprint to a ref, get in his face.
It's true.
The ref put his hand on his back pocket. He was about 2 seconds from getting sent off.
In most leagues, when you put your hand on the pocket, you have to take it out. So
I think he put it there like if you don't walk away, you're getting something. And honestly, I think he might have given him a straight red there for just yelling in his face. It would have not been outside the realms of like logic for an official in this league, but it was a good tackle, and he just. The red mist descended, I think, on him, and it was frustrating to see because he's playing so well, and then to do that, it's just like, why?
Yeah, so that is where there is a little bit of the kind of mid-season Franco Escobar coming back, and hopefully, again, he can quell more of the mid-season.
I love the fire, but
and then bring
out
more of the playoff form Escobar. But I think in this though, PT Martinez, I think had just a lot of control in this match, and set up both chances essentially. I mean, with
Pereira had the second one, but that was the different. He had the great switch, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the same ball. Yeah,
I think that PT for me, and I said it in the fan camp. I think PT played okay. And I think that's kind of been the thing about his whole first half of the season.
And I get that. I get your point, but
it's been okay. I mean, he has 1 goal and 1 assist in 14 appearances, 10 starts, 4 off the bench. But he's only completing 73% of his passes. And for a player of his quality, I mean, in this game, he completed 64% of his passes, I want to say. And
he's trying a lot of things.
I think he is trying a lot. But the thing is that he's not playing at the level that I think the fans expected of him, which is why I think that this break came at the perfect time. Because
I think for everybody,
everyone in the team, but I genuinely think that he still needs a bit more time to settle. I still think that he needs some rest because he has barely had any, if we're being perfectly honest. And I think that this time could really, really help him meld more and come to a grip of what
re-energize
is.
himself.
And I think that you have seen the flashes here and there from him. The goal against Orlando, some of his turns where against Minnesota, he sat like 5 people on their asses that game. So you've seen the flashes, the pass to Joseph Martinez, the switch of play to Dion Pereira. It's there. It just hasn't been put together consistently. And I think
as a whole for the match,
yes, and I think that's the biggest frustration that people would have had, myself included, with him. But I genuinely think that with the time, I think in the second half of the season, with him finding some form, with Barco continuing his development, this attack could really end up where it was last season, if not better. And I think he will come good, and I think that he wants to come good. And I genuinely think that we'll see him doing some playmaking along the lines, maybe not the goals, but in terms of effects on matches. I think he can do stuff like Carlos Vela can. And I think that he will in the second half of the season, and I look forward to seeing what he has to offer to Atlanta United, because I know it will be better than what we've seen so far.
Right, and I think we mentioned in the fan camp as well, where we're kind of licking our chops at, a kind of in-form Ezequiel Barco, and then a PT Martinez coming into form, what kind of team that would look like. Of course, obviously, earlier in the season, they were kind of maybe getting in each other's way a little bit more, and I think, now the way we have it set up, if PT Martinez can come from the right a little bit more, and Barco can be in the area that he affects a lot in the middle on that left side a little bit. I mean,
maybe they don't run in the same place because Barco does like to drift to the left more than he does to the right. So if that's the case, then you get them out of each other's way, but still allow them to create space for each other. That's really dangerous because you have players that can do stuff from anywhere on the pitch with both feet. That, not to mention Joseph Martinez is finding his form. I think that from where things were at the beginning of the season and where things are getting to, where things are developing to, you can really start to see how this team can really start taking that form and start scoring goals and playing the type of football that we expect from them going into the second half of the season.
Right, and that gets us to the post-match quotes where Franco Boer was talking about where he was asked if he has put his stamp on the club, and he said, "Yeah, normally I always say after 6 months you see things that you think, yeah, these things are the things we discussed. This is what I want to see from my team. I think we see that already. We are playing much more compact when we don't have the ball, when we cannot press. We are feeling much more comfortable on the ball. We know what our role is from each individual player in his position. Football is always about small details, and we want to improve." And I think, he has mentioned that at other places as well, Crystal Palace and Inter Milan, where there were those issues where he wasn't given enough time there, obviously, and now he feels like, yeah, there has been 6 months for the team to kind of learn what each other is all about and whatnot, and we'll kind of allude to an article that was from Yahoo Sports, I believe.
Yes.
That was amazing in talking about.
If you have not read it, read it.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll link that below. But it's incredible in that sense that he has been adapting and making adjustments, and that's something that was maybe a criticism of his from people on this channel, but I think that in the grand scheme of things, yet seeing that is a huge positive, because you see the things like there are like tactical adjustments that have been made, not only to formations but also to allowing kind of more of the South American flair to show out, or just allowing players to be who they are. And
he had a great quote in that piece where he talked about how the last practice before every match for him is always structured and very high intensity and making sure every little detail is focused. But he acknowledges that South Americans prefer to have it as a very loose, let them scrimmage, let them play, let them have fun, let them be relaxed. And when asked about that, he said, I hate it, but I have to have it happen.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he goes, I hate it, like that was his exact words, is just hilarious, like, but it has to happen. And I think, when earlier in the season when, we were criticizing him and it was looking like, oh, he's not changing, it's the same old DeBoer, he hadn't yet. But in that article it talked about having a team meeting where they cleared the air and everyone who had an issue, get it out there and say it so that they can move on and evolve. And I think sometimes, it takes a while for an evolution to happen. I mean, a caterpillar doesn't go straight to a butterfly or whatever. It takes a while in that metamorphosis to grow into what it is. And maybe that's been this period where it was boring, it was dull, but now you might start to begin to see that beautiful game grow.
Right.
And moving into the second half of the season with possible additions, with having your players back, you might start to see that beautiful game and that expansive play that he was brought in to do. And sometimes it does take time. Look, Maurizio Sarri said he needed time at Chelsea. At the end of the season, he wins a trophy, and now he's probably off to Juventus.
Right.
But he needed time to implement and learn and adapt.
And I think that's
important.
Right. And that is important. And it's also, though, that is the criticism of early on where, maybe he was maybe forcing things too early, where he wasn't letting the team be themselves and kind of just finessing his ideals into it versus like, this is my stamp and this is what is going to happen.
Like massaging the play in as opposed to just going, boink, this is what we do now.
Exactly.
And I think that was like the whole 3-4-3 debacle. But let's not talk about that. I think, they're getting better. I think in terms of that first half of the season, it was frustrating for a very large bit of it.
Right.
But I think, you had those 2 defeats to Red Bull, which was weird, and then you had the defeat to RSL where the team just looked knackered and they lose at the very last second of the game. So you had those 2 results go against you, but in terms of that madness of a fixture thing they had, they win 6 out of 8 games. You have 6 clean sheets. As of right now, every win has been a clean sheet this season, and this team already has more clean sheets than they did all of last year.
Yes.
And it's June.
Yeah, it is incredible in that regard, because yes, we have been more compact defensively. We have been just basically smarter when we don't have the ball, and so that is a really great change. I think we all still want to see more goals coming from this team, and I think at least with the past 2 results, it's gotten better in that regard. But through the first 13 games, it was 14 goals, and so that isn't very fantastic of an account for that. But I think at the end of the day, 8-28, so much match congestion, winning 6 out of 8 games is amazing, and especially with all of them being clean sheets.
The travel they had in there, going across the country 4 times.
Exactly, and the 2 losses were on the road. It's it really is.
An RSL team that's been good this season, streaky at times, but have been a solid team. And then a Red Bull team where you've never won a matchup there, ever. And it was a fluky goal and a fluky weird game that just kind of sums up what it's like to play against Red Bull in that arena. And it's just one of those things. But you're sitting in 3rd place going into this break with a game in hand on Philadelphia, 2 games in hand on DC. So you can go into 1st place by a point if you win those games. you're not in a bad place at all, considering that Atlanta was sitting at the bottom of the table at the beginning of April.
Speaks to also how dismal the East is.
Exactly.
Probably
I think it does, but at the same time, this team has put together a run of results, winning, I believe, 8 of their last 10 or 11 matches, and that's a really good place to be. You're seeing the improvement there. I think that maybe Atlanta might not win something this year, but I think that you can see that what's happening and building might take time, and I think as much as it's an education for the team, I think it's also an education for the fans, because they're trying to build something that hasn't been done before in MLS, playing in a style and a system that hasn't been accomplished, and they're not there yet, and it's going to take time. But I think if we can remain patient and we can work our way through it, then we might see something really special maybe come next season, in the future, and growing on, stamping that identity on Atlanta United, saying, this is how we play beautiful football, we attack, we score. Obviously, we're not there yet, but I think that we're working towards that. And that's what I hope to see in the second half of the season.
Indeed. So let's wrap a bow on both of those matches. 2 very, very good results and performances. I think, Minnesota United, that match was probably the better performance overall, even before the goals. But just a very, very good month, and going into a very it's June that has pretty much almost no fixtures except for the US Open Cup. Exactly. But let's get into the news, and congratulations to Joseph Martinez, Miles Robinson, and Frank de Boer for making the MLS Team of the Week, and also Brad Guzan makes the bench as well. Great things to see from those guys, because you want the recognition as well. I mean, it comes with you see Joseph Martinez making a lot of Team of the Weeks, and finally he makes a Player of the Week, which is
he was always going to win that. Exactly. As soon as it's put up for a vote on social media, that's only going to go one way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially it's on Twitter or something like that. It was done, and he has made he is the MLS Player of the Week, and kind of the really just one of the other gold quotes that he had from this week was whether he prefers number 7 or number 17, which was his old number. He
has it tattooed on him.
Yeah, he has it tattooed on him. He wore it at Torino. He wears it with Venezuela, and of course number 7 he wears for us. But he had this to say. He said, "My favorite number is 10 p.m. at night, because that is when my grandmother gives me arepas." And hilarious. Oh my God. I think arepa sales have gone through the roof.
He is a treasure. He's going to get a statue one day outside of that stadium come hell or high water. How can you just not love Joseph?
Exactly. I mean, it's just everything he says when he wants to say anything to the press is just so good.
I mean,
makes me want to
had a little bit of back and forth with Joe Patrick on Twitter about just all the quotes that he's just delivered these guys from. We continue to father them to these.
Exactly.
I mean, he's just, like you said, for a guy that doesn't talk all the time, when he does talk, you're probably going to get something gold from him. It's just incredible. I love that, man. I'm glad he's playing for Atlanta United, and I don't think he'll be going anywhere.
Yeah, hopefully not. Knock on wood.
And if not, someone's going to be driving a lot of trucks full of money to Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right, exactly. All the time in armored trucks. But he also unveiled a new celebration, one hand on the knee, and it's I think in terms of celebrations go, maybe perplexing for a lot of people, because what he had to say after that, he said, "The people call me the king, right?" And it's a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, aren't the people supposed to kneel for the king?" But you know what? It's Joseph Martinez. He does what he wants, and
it's always going to be simple.
Exactly. To question him at this point is just futile, and so
there's no point.
Yeah, it's every celebration that he has, or his hop before a penalty. I mean, he is just very much doing what he does. Like, he is him. Like, there is that Manny being Manny. It's Joseph being Joseph at this point, I think. So.
Absolutely. Other news, 13 Atlanta United Academy players have signed with Division I soccer programs. So in terms of what the Academy is doing, I think that Atlanta United are doing things right, from winning the Man City Cup, haha, fuck you City, to sending players to Division I programs where if they're not going to be playing professionally, they're going to a good school to get a good education and play Division I soccer. So hats off to those players signing with Division I programs. Best of luck to you in the future and in your endeavors.
Indeed. But we talked about that great interview from Frank de Boer on Yahoo Sports. In that article, we'll Link it in the description box below. If you haven't read it, read it. It's very insightful on what was happening throughout the season so far, up until about now, pretty much. But on to international duty. Ezequiel Barco and Argentina, unfortunately, they have crashed out of the U20s World Cup. But he balled out. He had 3 goals, I believe, if that last one was credited to him or not. But yeah, I mean, you know, they lose, unfortunately, on penalties against Mali. But
why would you sub Ezequiel Barco? And it was the last minute of the game when they subbed him out. And the guy that they subbed in for him missed the penalty.
Yeah.
This is a guy that at 18 years old scored 2 penalties in the Copa Sudamericana final to lift the cup. I think that if there's anyone on that team to take a penalty, he'd be the one. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Honestly, he balled out. He raised his profile. He's now a name that scouts know around the world again. And he raised his profile, which is what he wanted to do. And he did that. He continued his good form, and he comes back healthy. I'm honestly not fussed that they lost because it means he comes back to Atlanta United earlier, which is in our benefit.
Right.
So I can't wait to see him in the, I guess, 7 stripes now and continue that form. Continue that form that he had when he left, because that goal against Kansas City was incredible, and I just can't wait to see him playing for the team again.
Indeed. But on to more international duty. Justin Miram is off with Iraq, playing a couple of friendlies against Tunisia and Libya on June 7th and June 10th. So that means he's probably unavailable for the US Open Cup match. So, but good luck to him, and stay healthy out there, because we brought him in for the congestion. We didn't really use him all that much, but, you know, still, all the while, we're probably going to need him for the rest of the season. So, and then also commiserations to Romario Williams for not making the Jamaica national team. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the lack of playing time maybe did him in. Who knows? Who knows if maybe he said no, but I would really doubt that he would, you know, kind of forego a chance to play for his national team. But I think that definitely allows maybe for, you know, us to maybe have at least a striker in tow.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out because he's probably going to end up starting those U.S. Open Cup matches.
So he's going to get playing time nonetheless.
Absolutely. But that kind of brings us to the big international news, which is happening on the day we were recording this, which is Wednesday, and that is Mexico v. Venezuela, and the return of one sweater-wearing caped hero, Tata Martino.
Indeed. Tata Martino, the one that has our hearts, or most of our hearts anyway.
If he doesn't, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I know, right? You might be dead inside.
Yeah.
But he had some things to say to the press when he arrived at Mercedes-Benz. He has his homecoming, essentially. They were practicing on the pitch. And yeah, he said, "It's hard to detach myself from the club and the people of Atlanta after 2 beautiful years."
Yeah,
it's getting a little dusty
is
in here.
there any dusty? Is it? I don't know what's going on.
But yeah,
there's a great picture of him on the pitch where he's just looking around and he's just smiling, and it's just like heartwarming. Like,
exactly.
You can't not love that guy.
Yeah, and you know, you love to see you know, him back in town, and you know, some rumors on Reddit, of course, that he might be hitting the golden spike or something.
That was never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen.
I wanted it to happen, but that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, because I think that would have maybe drawn too much attention away from Frank de Boer, and it's contentious to maybe do that. But José Martinez also had some really kind words to say about Tata Martino. He said, "Tata gave a lot to me, to the team, and to the city. I think he gave a lot. I think he gave all the players confidence, and he made us all believe in ourselves. And he gave a lot to us. So we tried to give a lot back to him. I think that is why we won a championship. So I think it will be nice. So I think it will be a nice game that he is coming back to Atlanta. We have to enjoy it because this is his home. It's always been his home, and he deserves it." And but there is also a little bit of gamesmanship as well. Tata Martino also said that he hopes that José Martinez doesn't get on his streak again, and meaning, you know, his scoring streak, you know, maybe that winning streak as well. And I think it's kind of, you know, it's deserved. I think, you know, Tata Martinez has to look out for his own. And yeah, he wants to do well.
As long as they hug and everyone sees it, I think everyone will be happy.
Right, exactly. I don't think any of us have a vested interest in any of these two national teams.
My only interest is Joseph staying healthy. That's it.
Exactly. And so what happens at the end of this match, it'll just be, I think, a fun homecoming for Tata Martino, regardless of anything else. But let's get into the transfer rumor of the week. There was another one, and that was the Ezequiel Barco, getting some links to some other clubs.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's, I think, too early for that talk. But at least in this one, this is from portsmouth.co.uk, that Atlanta United are reportedly in the chase for Motherwell defender Alex Gorin. He plays in the Scottish League, and he has no goals and 1 assist in 20 league matches. And he's a Spaniard that's available on a free transfer. I think it's the position that we're looking for. I'm not sure that this rumor nor the player are probably what we're looking for.
Yeah, no, I'm not really. I think it's kind of just a name. He speaks Spanish. Let's attach him to a club that has a lot of Spanish-speaking players.
I think this is dartboard action at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we put it out there because it has been at least reported by a source that whether they're 50-50 or under 50-50, I mean, sometimes it's still, some of these under 50-50 rumors still happen.
Yeah.
So
but Frank de Boer did talk about it after the Chicago match. He said, "Of course, we are interested in adding good players. It has to fit the salary cap and the rules we have here. We would add someone who we think could step in directly rather than waiting 1 year to adapt." So I think they're definitely looking for someone to step in. I think the question really comes down to who Atlanta United needs to sign, what kind of position. I mean, personally, I think it should be a left back. There's been people that pointed out, well, you have a lot of left backs right now, and it's like, well, Breck Shea wasn't signed to play left back. He's not a left back. Mikey Ambrose is returning from a long-term knee injury, and his fitness is questionable at best. George Bello has a long-term injury.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it further in the mailbag. We kind of get asked this question. So
how about that?
Yeah. So we won't delve in too hard into that, but yes.
Atlanta United will be adding someone.
Yes.
So there will be a new name wearing the 5 stripes at some point in time this summer.
So we know what Frank de Boer is looking for as well, so that's good news. Going into Atlanta United 2, it is military night on Friday, and they play RBNY 2, and they last played Charleston Battery, our US Open Cup opponents, and to a 1-1 draw on May 25th. So, if there aren't any Atlanta United matches, go out and support Atlanta United 2, and that'll be fantastic. But we talked a little bit about the Atlanta United Academy, and that they are heading to the playoffs. That's fantastic.
That's U17s and the U19s.
Exactly, and so balling out throughout the whole system and club of Atlanta United.
Hopefully seeing some of those guys in the first team at some point in the next few years. That would be nice.
Indeed, and I think that's what people are looking for from a Frank de Boer and the whole system as a whole is how much he can blood through these young guys that are making it through the academy as well. So that does it for the news and gets us to the mailbag. You guys send in these questions through IG story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. First question comes from Keaton Thomas, 61. Going into summer, what match will be the most crucial in defining our season? I think
July is a tough month.
But he asked what match, and I think it's LAFC because that's the barometer. That's they are setting the pace in the league right now, and I think whatever we do against them on the road, again, that's gonna be tough, is going to be kind of where we're at. I think hopefully we have a fully fit and healthy squad going into that match, and that way we can get the best barometer. But other than that, I mean, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would have probably went the same way myself, mostly because, again, like kind of discussed earlier, the East is, if we're being honest, a bit of a crapshoot right now. But LAFC and Atlanta United have been the two darlings of MLS the last 2 seasons, with them in their first season having a very mirrored image of what Atlanta United did in the second season as well, seeing what they're doing. Both have incredible fan cultures, both have squads that are built better, I guess, in a new way than how MLS has traditionally built their squads, with very captivating players. And if Atlanta United want to see where they are in their progression under Frank de Boer, that's going to be a big match. Obviously, last year it was a 5-0 result that was a bit flattering because goals kind of started going crazy at the end of that match. Yeah. But I think if Atlanta United can go out there and get a good result, or at least draw and show that they're a good team, I think that could really give them the confidence knowing, okay, that's the team that's the best in the league right now. And if we're as good as they are, then we should be able to beat everyone else in the schedule. So that being said, I don't know if a defeat to LAFC in that game will be devastating, though. So I think it could be one of those where it's key if you win and if you can play well, but if you lose, I don't think it hurts you too much because they are just that good right now.
But I think if we win, that defines our season.
Oh, if that wins, that can be your point saying, especially if you win playing the Boer style and you play well and get a victory out there, then it says, like you said, a catalyst. It goes, okay, we've beaten the best team on their patch. Let's kick on and go and do some stuff. And then probably, ideally, see them again in the MLS Cup final.
Yeah, hopefully that is the case. Next question comes from Hype Monster. Would it be good for the roster if we sold Barco?
No. Next?
Yeah, I know, right? I'm not sure where you're getting this idea from, but I mean, yes, he has shown out, and so yes, the dollar signs probably will raise for his value. But in terms of, I think at the end of the day, there still is the reported, there's 10%, of a fee if we sell him in January. If we sell him in this calendar year, in this year in 2018, it's 30% to Independiente. So I think we need to sell him after that fact. And so
I think you might see him sold. If you're talking about him getting sold in mid-season, you might see him sold in the summer window of next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if because again, with the 10% going to Independiente in January, you're going to get more for him next summer because of the European calendar and how it works, although that will be a blow to you to lose a player of his quality in mid-season. To have him continue to play well in MLS and continue in the form he is, we'll just see that dollar sign continue to go up because people are aware of him now because of his performance at the U20 World Cup, especially that second goal he had on the volley. That was incredible. If he continues to play the way he is, that number will continue to climb. And
it's also good for the team.
And it's also good for the team.
Good for the roster.
If you want to win something this year, you need Ezequiel Barco.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the bottom line at the end of the day. Next question, Lord D-Ship. Who do you think they will target in the transfer window? So here we are.
I think it should be a left back because I think Breck Shea, as he showed against Chicago, although you have a lot of people up top already, I think he's better going forward. I think he's better as a left winger. I think he suits the team better as an alternative option up top. I don't think he's a left back. Mikey Ambrose, long-term injury. George Bello, long-term injury. You don't have someone who can step in. If you can find someone like a Franco Escobar to play left back, you have a complete team.
And of course, though, that's the problem that most MLS teams have is they kind of eschew fullback in this league, essentially.
And Frank de Boer, after the Chicago game, noted, or actually after the Minnesota game, in talking about Escobar, noted how important it is to have fullbacks playing and being able to overlap and create that space when you play against teams that sit deep. Michael Parkhurst has done a decent job deputizing out there, but he's not a left back. He's not going to get up and down the pitch. He's not.
He has a lot of utility in this team right now.
He's good on the ball, but he's not the dynamic presence that you need on the left to be able to interchange with someone.
I think, though, because we have so many options there, we have also guys at Atlanta United too, Guillermo Benitez. We have a Jose Hernandez as well. Those are guys that also could step in. It's really a dearth of options at a left fullback. And so if you bring somebody in, then you are essentially maybe blocking a George Bello if he is actually able to be healthy this season. And so I think that's where it is very difficult. I think the depth at right back definitely needs to be addressed. Although, yes, like we just mentioned, Parkey, his utility across the entire back line is fantastic, and so at least for a match. Yeah, and then midfield, I think that's really where it is. I think Kratz being healthy is fantastic because he's a guy that can spell what Jonathan Nagbe does, not to his degree, but something in that regard. He can spot you for a match, and that is huge. I think, though, with those options, we have 5 options that are at least MLS ready. So, to kind of maybe think about what Frank de Boer could be wanting, it's very interesting. I mean, that I think it's a midfielder, I feel like, for me, that needs to be brought in. So, it's a guy that can spell Jonathan Nagbe on an even larger and longer term because there are the whispers, of course, of Jonathan Nagbe that went away really quickly, but is it actually going away?
You have to re-sign him after the season.
Exactly, and then you have Tito Villalba, who may not be favored by Frank de Boer. Is he long for this team? I hope he is, but anything could happen in that regard as well. So there's a lot of things that could happen in terms of outgoing as well that we may not be anticipating. So, last question comes from Dom Yermian 20. Do you think if we had Garza and De Boer's defense tactics, we would have the best defense?
No, because all Garza's doing right now is sitting on the training table because he's been hurt almost all season.
Exactly. He keeps continually getting hurt, unfortunately. He's a fantastic player when fit, but he just kind of is an oft-injured left back at this point. And also, it's one of those things where we, at least by goals allowed, we have allowed the fewest goals in the league. So technically, in that sense, we are the best defense in MLS with 11 goals allowed. But in terms of that, even last year, we were amongst the best in that goal difference and also goals allowed. So it's one of those things. I don't really think that he really would have been that big of a factor, especially with his injuries.
I think with what Atlanta United got for him, you can't look back on that deal and say that they made a mistake at all. They got a very solid amount of money for a player who isn't really playing.
The mistake is maybe bringing in a replacement that can actually, actually be the guy. And they were counting on Bello for that spot. Hasn't worked out. So. That does it for the mailbag and gets us to the match preview. It's the U.S. Open Cup match on June 11th at MUSC Health Stadium against the Charleston Battery again. And so it's the third time in 3 years we play them.
Man, the U.S. Open Cup's so original.
Exactly. It's just, I think it's going out of territorial convenience versus actually a kind of randomized thing. And
I get it, but at the same time, it's like, maybe you can have the East and West separated, but MLS clubs, it's actually something that happens in France, where in the Cup, the bigger team always goes on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know if it happens in Italy as well, but in France, the bigger team has to go on the road. I have no problem if you say, okay, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, draw a line. Sure. We can go anywhere in the Eastern Conference for the USL or for MLS and have it open, and you can play anyone. We could draw an MLS team, we could draw a USL team. But having it be Charleston every single season is another and it's not just us with Charleston. It happens with other teams consistently. Sure. Yeah. It's hard for teams to take a tournament seriously where you see the same team every year. You know that most of the time your second team is going to beat that USL squad, and then it's just like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Give us a different opponent. Give us somewhere different to go. So I get that there's travel involved, but MLS teams can afford it. And a little bit of something to freshen the competition might make people take it a bit more seriously.
Right. And the away day to Charleston last year was fantastic. But
it's a great city.
It's a great city, really fun. But I think, though, I had to go there for a bachelor party as well later in the year. I think I've seen enough of Charleston, South Carolina.
It's a beautiful city to visit. Live there is actually great. It's
just as hot there.
The U.S. Open Cup isn't like a tourist thing for Charleston. It's probably I'd like to see us go somewhere else.
But so Charleston Battery, they sit 9th out of 18th in the Eastern Conference in the USL Championship. They in their last 5 or 6. Or let's go with their last 4. They have drawn 2 and lost 2. One of them being a draw against Atlanta United. And it's a team that in our previous matchups we beat them in 2017. That was the U.S. Open Cup. We beat them in 2018. That was the U.S. Open Cup. 3-2, 3-0. Of course, we have played them in preseason as well. At least the last previous 2 years. That was there's some interesting results in those, but I think
preseason's preseason.
Yeah, exactly. You just chalk it up to that. But in terms of their team, they kind of set up as a 3-4-1-2 or a 3-4-3. And it's interesting, 3-4-3. But it doesn't mean that it's successful, and that's the point.
They're sitting in 9th.
Yeah,
I rest my case.
That is the point. That 3-4-3, when the top teams aren't playing it because it isn't successful, and so That's at least what
By the way,
Devin said way back when.
I was wrong. There is one team that played 3-4-3 this past season in Europe and did well, and that was Atalanta, and they finished third in Serie A, and they're playing in the Champions League. That's it.
Sure.
But it was a really weird formation and how they did it, and I'm not going to get into breaking that down because this is not the Atalanta. Only reason I say it is because it's Atalanta and Atlanta. There's a bit of a extra A, but whatever.
Indeed. But they're a team that, from actual using of the height or anything like that, they haven't really scored goals that way. They've scored 7 goals from their left foot, 7 goals from their right foot, and only 1 from a headed variety. And so that's interesting. It's it's a team that probably kind of is looking more to get you maybe from behind, but can they actually play through us? I probably doubt it. And so that means that they're probably also a team that maybe likes to play the long ball a little bit.
Well, that's probably going to be their best chance against Atlanta United,
so.
Because Atlanta, even though you'll have a rotation of the squad, Frank de Boer will expect most of these players to be able to continue to play in the system that he wants them to play within. They'll be playing higher up the pitch, and most of the time I expect the ball will be in Charleston Battery's half, which means that the space will be in behind for them to try and catch Atlanta United on the counter.
Right.
I think with this, the key is staying humble, staying focused, knowing that yes, Atlanta United, even when they rotate, are the better side. They still need to be focused to go and get a result because you don't want to lose to Charleston.
Yeah.
I get that there is a respect there. They're a former partner with Atlanta United, but you're better. You need to go get a win. Even though it's US Open Cup, losing to Charleston is inexcusable. So you have to be focused. I think it'll be interesting because, again, you will have a lot of rotation. So there'll be players who haven't played a lot this season. For them, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for them to show out and maybe earn themselves a place to be considered more for the first team. So this is a great launching point for those players to be able to do more and be more involved in Major League Soccer because there's not a lot of chances in MLS like there might be for a Premier League team with their multiple cup competitions for these players to get time and to get minutes. So those are some keys for me as far as this game is concerned.
And some guys for them that we should look out for. Zyko Lewis has 4 goals. He's their striker. O'Brien Woodbine and Lewis both have 2 assists on the season. But I think, for me, the keys to this match is that we don't get caught out while we're trying to attack. It's a matter of controlling this midfield and making sure that we can play through them when we actually have the ball, and that we do get the lion's share of the chances, hopefully in the box and not from shots from distance. We just have to watch out for that long ball, that route one that they probably will inevitably play. If they play differently, that will be a great surprise, and if it's way more open than that, fantastic. But in terms of the injuries and unavailable players for this match, you have George Bello, of course. You have Joseph Martinez off with Venezuela. You have Justin Miram with Iraq, and you have Tito Villalba off with that injury to his knee.
And you had Kevin Kratz has been back in training, so he's a player who has been injured who could potentially be coming back.
And he played with Atlanta too.
So getting that match fitness back is important for him. And then Brandon Vasquez as well, back in training, coming back from an injury, so he could be involved with the team as well. But they are recovering from injuries, so do we expect them to play? I'm not sure, but their availability is probably going to be they will be available.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of the guys have had a little bit of a break and definitely will have a break up until. Who's going to be available? It's going to be a just grab bag of kind of the starting 11 here. So let's get into our projected starting 11 line by line. I think it's Can in between the six.
Absolutely, he should be. I think this is the time for him to play. He has been a consummate professional.
Right.
Brad Guzan's going to start every single match, but he's still out there. He's getting in his work after the matches as well. So I think that he deserves to start this match. There's no reason to play Brad Guzan, and he could still go away on international duty with the United States as well. So I think it's going to be him in net.
Yeah, agreed. So that's where the interesting part is. Do we play a Franco Escobar at right back? What kind of formation do we play? I think, it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. It depends on the personnel, of course, but it definitely is a four-man back line. And I think John Gallagher is the guy who steps in at right back for this match, because I think, not only has he been playing it for Atlanta United 2, Franco Escobar kind of not only a busy month, but the injury right before that, I think he needs a rest, even though he might not even be playing, at the match at the end of the month. But I think John Gallagher deserves a start to at least, let's see what he's got.
I think that if you win this match and you draw an MLS team in the next round, you might see Escobar step in then. But in this match, I think Gallagher absolutely, I agree with you, deserves a shout. What is there to lose? I think he's worked hard, and I think he deserves a shot in the first team. And a match of this level, which is opponent he's played against before and is definitely comfortable playing against. It's not like he'll be stepping out of his depth in this.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think the key is the two center backs.
Yes.
I think you have to play one of your starting first team guys
Right.
to keep that consistency. So I think
And
it'll be a Miles Robinson.
Yeah, he's a young guy, been balling out, and in terms of this month, not too many matches anyway, so I don't think it's gonna be that bad to kind of give him a run out here.
And he'll have a 10-day rest between,
Exactly.
or something along those lines, between the Chicago match and this match. I think next
It's
to
a
him,
tune-up,
I think next to him is Florentin Pogba.
Yeah.
I think that he needs to play more, and I think this is a perfect match for him to step in and do very well at.
Right, especially if there is that long ball over the top. I think we saw it against Vancouver Whitecaps. He really dealt with those, really all the chances, really quite well, and shepherded a lot of the balls into the byline. So, it wasn't an issue, and I think Florentin Pogba, absolutely deserves this start for sure. Now it's to left back, and that's where it's interesting. I think a lot of guys maybe could get this call, but I think the most experienced and of the guys that hasn't played the most recently, also still coming back from injury, I think it's Mikey Ambrose.
Absolutely. I think if he's fit enough to play, I think that he deserves to start this match, in that he needs to get minutes with the first team again, because he's a player that should be involved with the first team and can play left back, and is probably more capable at doing left back things in terms of getting up and down the pitch than some of the other players involved, and he gives you that cover. I think this, again, is an opponent that he will be comfortable playing against. It won't be a stretch, and if you can get 65, 70 minutes out of him, I think that would be a fantastic match for him to come in and play.
Right. Now onto the midfield. I think you need one of these guys, and especially one of the veterans, to kind of sit in the middle of the pitch and at least be able to give that leadership, and as well as a guy who hasn't really seen a ton of time. He's come on kind of more as a substitute recently, and I think it's Jeff Laronowitz coming in.
Absolutely, and he's a quality player that is a defensive midfielder that you don't get the quality of too often in Major League Soccer. He's experienced. He'll be able to drop back between the two center backs as well, sweep up anything that comes in there, and you expect Atlanta United to control possession a lot in this match. So he's a player that will be able to dictate the pace of play. He'll be able to get the ball and then recycle it and move it to the other side of the pitch when you want to do that. I think his midfield partner, if he's fit, I think is Amia Kevin Kratz. He'll be given a bit more license to go forward, because again, you expect Atlanta United to have the lion's share of possession in this match against a team of an inferior quality. He'll probably be counted on to go more forward a bit, and you know that you'll get his delivery off set pieces as well.
Indeed. Yeah, so I think, Kevin Kratz and Larry, them in the middle, maybe not the paciest, but it is something that
But you have
can
Pogba and
control.
you have Robinson behind them, so you have the pace backing them up.
Exactly. And so, we won't get the Donington Nagby things where, he'll be breaking through lines with not only dribbling, but, his pace a little bit. But I think, it's still good enough to beat a Charleston Battery. Getting into the attacking midfield, let's go on the right mid first, I guess, or maybe left mid, and we'll keep it more interesting.
Okay, I think left mid, I think Dion Pereira again will play. He's young. I think he needs minutes. You have depth there as well, so you're not too concerned about it. I think him playing as many matches as he can will be important for him to continue to feel comfortable in this team and in this system.
Right, I agree. Pereira definitely showing out, and I think he needs to keep in form, and this is like the tune-up that he can get and stay in form for this month. Now getting into the 10 position, this is where it might be interesting, and we'll just kind of go it kind of concurrently together, because it could be a Andrew Carlton. It could be a Tata Martinez. It could be several other people, but I think
be an Ezekiel Barco if he's back with the team.
exactly.
I think that
If
he
he's not given
shouldn't
a break
play,
or not,
but I think that he should get a break, to be perfectly honest with you. But, he could step in as well, because he would have had some time once he got back. I personally think Tata Martinez should play in this match. He would have had 10 days off, and if he's playing once every week, and he has some time off in this month, I still think that for him, seeing the ball hit the back of the net will help increase his confidence. And anytime he's playing within the system and getting more comfortable, with De Boer and what De Boer wants from him, I think is a positive for him, and I think that he could go out and really put his stamp on this match and be able to control things and get himself a couple of goals or something would do him the world of good.
Right, and it's also, I mean, in terms of if you look at who's the better 10 or the better creative midfielder in the middle, I think it's a Tata Martinez, of course, over an Andrew Carleton, and so that's where Andrew Carleton starting in the 10 role. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's Andrew Carleton maybe on the right, which he has shown some ability there. Against a DC United last season, he was able to pump in that ball from the right. That it was maybe an assist, maybe not an assist because it hit a player's head, an opposing player's head, and Jose Martinez scored it. But still, nonetheless, he had the vision and was able to cross that ball into that area. So, and he was able to beat guys off the dribble. I think this is a perfect match for Andrew Carleton, and also playing against a former team of his as well. So that gets us to who the striker is. And
Mario Williams, if he's fit and he's the guy, I think he's your only guy, really. I mean, it could be a Brandon Vasquez, but I think in this case it's going to be our Mario Williams. Again, playing against a former team. He's comfortable playing against teams like this. I think he deserves a chance. He deserves a shout. And I think he can do well in this match.
Yeah. So that gets us to our score prediction. I think for me, it's a 2-0 win because, there is going to be a little bit of unfamiliarity, a little bit of rust with that 10-day break. So in terms of we should and I think are the better team, we will get the goals. And, I think if you have a Miles Robinson back there, very unlikely for them to be able to score against us.
Yeah. I'm going to say 3-1. I think that they're good enough. I think Atlanta, especially PT plays against a team of this quality, I think he can see the ball hit the back of the net 1 or 2 times. I think that even though there's some unfamiliarity, Atlanta are a better team. They'll control the game. I don't know why I think Charleston will score, but I think they might just get one just because it's US Open Cup and maybe someone's not focused all the way and they might nick one, but I think Atlanta wins this game fairly comfortably.
Yep. So that does it for the match preview and gets us to our question of the day.
And guys, the question of the day is, with all the transfer rumors going about, if you had to sign one position player, it doesn't have to get into specifics of who that player is, if one position needed strengthening this summer, what position would that be? Get down in the comments below and let us know what you guys have to think.
But guys, that's it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, smash that like button, and share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.